بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي. إن الحمد لله نستعينه ونستهديه ونستغفره ونتوب إليه ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا. من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلن تجد له وليا مرشدا. وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن سيدنا محمدا عبده ورسوله. أما بعد، فإن أفضل الحديث كلام الله وخير الهدي هدي محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم وشر الأمور محدثاتها وكل محدثة بدعة وكل بدعة ضلالة وكل ضلالة في النار. يقول الله تعالى في سورة العنكبوت: والذين جاهدوا فينا لنهدينهم سبلنا وإن الله لمع المحسنين. Allah here is talking about jihad, and unfortunately this word has been dealt with so much in the media that it becomes misunderstood even by Muslims. We always find jihad being translated into holy war. Holy war, translated in Arabic, means al-harb al-muqaddasa. This word is not mentioned anywhere in the Quran. So jihad does not mean holy war. As a matter of fact, jihad has got a wider meaning than that. And just to emphasize its importance, Prophet Muhammad said in his hadith, Ra'sul Amr al-Islam. The head, the most important thing is Islam. وَعَمُودُهُ الصَّلَاةِ. And the pole, like the pole that sits in the middle of a tent, is prayer. وَذِرْوَةُ سِنَامِهِ الْجِهَادِ. And the highest point, the ultimate, is jihad. So if we look at the context of this hadith, we can understand the wider meaning of jihad and how important it is. There are several types of mujahada or jihad. There is jihad that entails fighting the enemy, which is usually spoken about a lot, and this is the physical aspect of jihad, or one of the physical aspects of jihad. There is a verbal aspect of jihad, which is al-amr bil-ma'ruf wa nahy anil munkar, and this is one of the things that we are ordered to do. And there is the jihad al-nafs, or the self, fighting the self. And this is the ultimate, this is the highest form of jihad. When the Sahaba were coming back from one of the major fights, they were told, you have returned from a jihad al-asghar, you've returned from the minor jihad, which is fighting the enemy, to the major jihad, which is fighting the self, fighting in nafs, fighting the whims. So let's go back to this ayah that I referred to in Surah Al-Ankabut. وَالَّذِينَ جَاهَدُوا فِينَا لَنَهْدِيَنَّهُمْ سُبُلَنَا. As for those who strive hard in us, that is in our way, we will surely guide them to our path. Allah says, whoever strives in his way, he will guide them. And verily, Allah is with al-muhsineen. Allah is with those who have the piety. Although ihsan is a much wider word than just piety. So let's take part by part of this ayah. وَالَّذِينَ جَاهَدُوا فِينَا. Ali ibn Abi Talib has a very famous saying where he says, جاهدوا أهواءكم كما تجاهدون أعداءكم. Fight your whims, fight your desires, just as hard as you fight your enemies. So whims and desires are our enemies, and that need to be fought just like physical enemies. The second part is الَّذِينَ جَاهَدُوا فِينَا لَنَهْدِيَنَّهُمْ سُبُلَنَا. So Allah promises that those who fight their whims and fight their desires and fight in nafs, He will guide them. He will show them guidance. And the hadith also emphasizes this meaning where it says, مَنْ عَمِلَ بِمَا عَلِمْ أَوْرَثَهُ اللَّهُ مَا لَمْ يَعْلَمْ. So you might say, look, I have little knowledge. It doesn't matter. If you just apply the little knowledge that you have, Allah will give you the bigger knowledge, the higher knowledge. And this is a form of jihad. In the Quran it says, وَلَا تَتَّبِعِ الْهَوَى فَيَضُلُّكَ عَنْ سَبِيلِ اللَّهِ. Do not follow your whims. Do not follow your self-desires. Just don't go blindly behind your desires, because it's going to lead you astray from the straight path of Allah. Now, why is jihad so important? And why is it so hard and difficult? The Quran tells us, زُيِّنَ لِلنَّاسِ حُبُّ الشَّهَوَاتِ. Allah has built it into human nature that human beings have a love, strive for certain shahawat, for certain desires. And He then gives us what these shahawat are. من النساء والبنين والقناطير المقنطرة من الذهب والفضة والخيل المسومة والأنعام والحرث. So, in short, it is sexual desire, having children, having money, having power, having cars, having possessions. All these things are built into us. Every single human being loves these things. But then Allah qualifies these things when He says, وَذَلِكَ مَتَاعُ الْحَيَاةِ الدُّنْيَا وَاللَّهُ عِنْدَهُ حُسْنُ الْمَآبِ. But this is only the pleasure. These are the pleasures of this life only. But Allah has the best, which we are going to all return to. So some people will argue, hang on. If we acknowledge that Allah has built these things into us, into all human beings, these desires, how can He ask us to fight them? And it's a very legitimate question if you just want to think logically without trying to widen your scope of thinking. All these items have been created to help sustain life. So if there was no desire, if men did not desire women and women did not desire men, there would be no reproduction. People would not have children and the race would die off. If there was no desire to work and produce and earn and do these things, then people were not going to do i'mar of the land which we have been created for. So these desires have been created into us, put into us for a purpose, and it is to help sustain life. And life has another purpose. The problem is that when these desires, which as I said are created to help sustain life, become the purpose of this life, then this is where things go wrong. And this is where the hawa, the whims, the self-desires come into play. And following the whims of the nafs is the problem, especially of our modern times. So in this day and age, everybody wants more. In the materialistic age, you want more money, you want more of this, you want more of that, you want more of that. Quite often we don't even stop for a minute to ask ourselves, why do I want all this? You see people who have got millions or billions of pounds or dollars, and yet they are working more because they want more. Why do they want more? It's an interesting question. Why? You know, if you've got all this money, if you've got all what you need, if you've got a house, you've got a car, you've got a wife, you've got kids, why do you want other women? Why do you want more money? Why do you want more houses? Why do you want more cars? You've already got all what you need. You've got all what you need to live a good life, and yet you still want more, because this is what we have been built with. And this is where we've gone astray. We don't understand that all these things are just a means of sustaining life to achieve higher meanings. The dangerous thing is that this can get to a stage where this becomes the modern God. Money becomes the modern God. And the whims, the self-desires become a God. And Allah says that in the Quran, where He says, أَفَرَأَيْتَ مَنِ اتَّخَذَ إِلَهَهُ هَوَاهُ. Have you seen those who have taken their desires a god? So the desire comes, the desire for money. I will get money anyway. Allah tells us don't steal, don't harm people. Yet you go against Allah's recommendations to us, Allah's orders to us, and you go after your desires. أَفَرَأَيْتَ مَنِ اتَّخَذَ إِلَهَهُ هَوَاهُ. And this is, wallahu a'lam, a sort of shirk, because you're putting another God the same position as Allah. The hadith tells us, لا يؤمن أحدكم حتى يكون هواه تبعا لما جئت به. Nobody is going to be completely mu'min, will not improve his iman and achieve the ultimate until his whims, his desires are along the same lines like the Prophet ﷺ has told us, like Allah's orders. The hadith also says, لا يؤمن أحدكم حتى أكون أحب إليه من والده وولده والناس أجمعين. You will not be a full believer until the love of Allah and the love of the Prophet is more than the love of the son, the parents, the money, and all the people. There's a famous story of Sayyidina Umar ibn Khattab where he was talking to Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And you know that Umar ibn Khattab was a very strong character, and he really understood himself, and he was able to have an inward look, which unfortunately most of us don't have nowadays. And when he heard, it's a long hadith, but the Prophet told him, you have to love me, not for the person about the Prophet, but love me, i.e. love the Prophet, what he represents to Islam, more than you love everything. And Sayyidina Umar said, yes, I love you more than my kids, my parents, my money, my possessions, but not myself. He was honest. And the Prophet told him, no, this is not enough. You are not going to achieve the ultimate in Iman until your love to me is more than your love to yourself. So he went away and came back and he said, you know what? Now I love you, the love in you, and my heart to you is more than my love even to myself. And he said, Al-ana ya Umar. Now you have achieved the high position that you should all aim for. So this is all great to have the theoretical part of it. But practically speaking, how do we practice this jihad al-nafs? How do we practice fighting our desires, our whims, our nafs? And the scholars have told us that it only comes through two things. One, bil-ta'a, and two, bil-riyada. So essentially what it is, first of all, you have to learn. You have to acquire the knowledge of as-sunnah, the knowledge of al-sharia, what is haram and what is halal, what is allowed and what's not allowed. So you must learn this. This is the first step. Now, once you learn this, then you start practicing it. As you start practicing it, you feel it's hard. It's difficult because your nafs is not going to leave you alone. It's going to try and lead you astray. So you just persist and persist and persist. And as you persist, then it becomes a natural part of your life. It comes naturally. And this meaning is also in Surah Al-Imran, where Allah says in Surah Al-Imran, Ya ayyuha alladhina amanu, O you who believe, اصبروا وصابروا ورابطوا واتقوا الله لعلكم تفلحون. O you who believe, endure and be more patient and be more persistent and have taqwa so that you'll be successful. So the key to success in this aspect is persistence and endurance. The scholars have said that trying to control your whims and desires, the nafs, is like riding a horse. Those of us who have ever ridden a horse know that when you're riding a horse, quite often the horse has a mind of its own. It wants to turn around and go back to its stable. Or you're riding and there's some green on the side or on the left, and the horse will go to that area to try and eat. So you've always got to make sure that you are controlling the horse properly and direct it in the same direction. And this is exactly what the nafs does to us. The nafs will always try to lead us astray. It will try to follow its whims, its desires. And unless we are always aware of what's happening and try to lead it in the right direction, in the straight path, it will lead us astray. Allah says in Surah Al-Hajj, وَجَاهِدُوا فِي اللَّهِ حَقَّ جِهَادِهِ هُوَ اجْتَبَاكُمْ وَمَا جَعَلَ عَلَيْكُمْ فِي الدِّينِ مِنْ حَرَجٍ مِلَّةَ أَبِيكُمْ إِبْرَاهِيمَ وَسَمَّاكُمُ الْمُسْلِمِينَ مِنْ قَبْلِ. And strive hard in Allah's cause, as ye ought to. He has chosen you and has not laid difficulty upon you, no hardship upon you. So let's just always remember that Allah has chosen us. We don't claim like the Jews that we are the chosen people, but Allah has chosen us to be Muslims. So those of us who have been born into Islam, or those of us who Allah has led to Islam, shown the way, is a choice from Allah. It's given by Allah. We haven't really earned it very much. So if He has given us this beautiful present of becoming a Muslim, then He tells us, وَجَاهِدُوا فِي اللَّهِ حَقَّ جِهَادِهِ. Then you must fight, you must strive in Allah's way. وَمَا جَعَلَ عَلَيْكُمْ فِي الدِّينِ مِنْ حَرَجٍ. There is no difficulty in religion. There is some mild hardship until you get your nafs to accept the straight path, and then it becomes natural, it becomes simple. So, conquering the nafs, conquering the whims and desires of al-nafs is the key to success in life. On all levels, by the way. All levels, especially for our young friends and colleagues. If you practice self-control, jihad and nafs, you will benefit on all levels. Now, it's not always easy and it's not a straight path. One of the great scholars, Sufyan al-Thawri, said that it's a real fight. Trying to control al-nafs is a real fight. ما علقت شيئا أشد على نفسي أشد علي من نفسي مرة لي ومرة لها. I strive to control the nafs, myself, my desires. And it's quite hard. It's tough. And one time I win, one time it wins. So if you decide to go down this road, do not worry if you're not always successful. You are going to have some setbacks because this is human nature. And this is how we elevate the nafs. If you go into the Quran, we'll find that Allah speaks about different types of nafs. He speaks about an-nafs al-ammara bis-su'. This is the nafs that's continuously striving to go in the wrong direction. And then it speaks about a higher level, an-nafs al-lawwama, the nafs that blames you when you do a mistake. And that's a higher level. Then it can be elevated and elevated and elevated until it gets to an-nafs al-mutma'inna. Maybe you can discuss this in another talk. It's beyond the scope of this khutbah. So what you just need to know is, remember that you need to be able to differentiate between what they call lammat al-nafs wa lammat al-shaytan. When the shaitan wants something from you, it tries to lead you astray. It's not concerned where you go. So all what the shaitan wants is just to make sure you do something wrong. You go in the wrong direction. So for example, it will tell you don't believe in Allah, but you believe, fine, okay, but you don't have to pray. No, I will pray, but you don't have to pray on time. Just make it anytime. Okay, you still pray, fine. Okay, forget about that. Don't pay your zakah. You know what? You need this money. So shaitan will try to get to you from any direction. And as soon as you say, A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim, yakhnus, it goes away. It's very simple. The nafs, however, is very different. The nafs is very persistent. When it wants something, it keeps nagging about the same thing. So when you find that you're getting a thought that keeps persistently coming to you, and it is consistent, then you know that it is from al-nafs. And remind yourself, this is the time. This is the time to get out your sword. This is the time to start jihad. This is the time to start the fight, jihad and nafs, which is a very high form of jihad. There are always many meanings to what we read in the Quran. So people would say, for example, but nowadays there is no jihad. There is no holy war. Yes, there might not be a holy war these days, but there is jihad, the major jihad, Jihadul Nafs. People will say, you know what, there is no hijrah. The first Muslims have done the hijrah from Mecca to Medina. Lucky they. There is no hijrah nowadays. And we say, no, there is a hijrah nowadays. Because the hadith says, Al-Mujahid man hajara manaha Allahu an. So if you go away from all what Allah has told us not to do, it is a form of hijrah. And it is a form of jihad. So there are several types of jihad over nafs, as I said. So jihad in nafs, to improve it. So you should always strive to improve yourself, to improve your psyche, to improve your way of thinking, to improve your material life. This is all jihad in nafs. You should strive to do that. The Prophet ﷺ tells us a very important hadith, especially to the youngsters. نعمتان مغبون فيهما كثير من الناس الصحة والفراغ. There are two ni'am that Allah gives people, and they let them go, and they are big losers when they do that. الصحة والفراغ. If you are healthy and if you have some free time, make sure it doesn't go away from you. Use your صحة, use your health. Use your health to do your ibadat. Either work to sustain your family. Do qiyam al-layl when you can do it, because when you're older or if you're sick you can't do it. Try to fast, because when you're not well you will not be able to fast. Use your good health when you have it. Use your sahha, use your strength to help other people. This is all the use of ni'am of Allah. And if you have some free time, don't say, how shall I kill my time? It is a ni'mah from Allah to have some free time. Use this time either to read, to learn something new, to help other people, or to do some ibadat. Use your free time. There is no such thing as free time that I need to kill. You are killing the most precious asset you have. So, jihad al-nafs litatwiriha is self-striving to improve oneself, as I said, both physically, in materialistic way, and in a psychological way. And then a jihad ضد المعصية. When you, especially the youngsters, you walk around and you see girls, pretty girls with mini skirts or, showing big parts of their bodies, and automatically you want to look at them. It is normal. It's built in us to do that as men, and women, vice versa. So jihad al-nafs ضد المعصية is غض البصر. You're doing that. You want to look, but you force yourself not to look. Sisters who want to wear hijab, they want to follow the fashion. They want to wear the modern clothes. They want to expose their hairs. Yet they don't do it. Why? Because they take it as a form of jihad against their nafs, against their whims. And then the last form of jihad is jihad al-hifaz al-ta'a. So you will find that sometimes it's very difficult to maintain even ta'at. So if you, for example, an example that we all go through, waking up to do your Fajr prayer, it's very difficult. You will find 100 excuses. If I wake up in the morning, I can't go back to sleep, I've got a long day at work, I will not wake up in the morning. This is the ta'ah, this is something that Allah has ordered us to do. It is not an option. It is something that we have to do. And other things, for example, fasting in Ramadan. And we get all these funny things every Ramadan. Ramadan is coming soon. You'll find all these funny fatawa. You know what? You don't have to. It's a long day. You don't fast the full day. You fast a few hours a day. You don't pick and choose. You don't pick and choose. This is where jihad comes in. Jihad al-hifaz ala ta'at, to maintain your ta'ah. أقول قولي هذا وأستغفر الله لي ولكم فاستغفروه. الحمد لله وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وأشهد أن محمدا رسول الله. Ibn Ata'illah, who is one of the famous scholars and philosophers of the Ummah, said a very interesting saying. He says, إِذَا الْتَبَسَ عَلَيْكَ أَمْران, if you are confused between two things, which one shall I do? فَانْظُرْ أَيُّهُمَا أَثْقَلْ عَلَى النَّفْسِ فَاتَّبِعْهُ فَإِنَّهُ لَا يَثْقُلْ عَلَى النَّفْسِ إِلَّا مَا كَانَ حَقًّا. So if you think there are two things I should be doing, shall I do this or shall I do that? Generally speaking, as a rule, in his opinion, look for the thing that you hate more, because it's usually the nafs that's trying to keep you away from it. So, say for example, you've got a choice between spending some money or doing siyam, fasting, if it is a choice, if you have to do either or. Then look into yourself and see which one you don't really want to do. You might say, fine, okay, I'll just give the money. If this is the case, go and do your siyam, go and fast. Because then you are teaching, it's like the horse. Remember the example of the horse? You are teaching your nafs to go in the straight path. No, I will not let you go where you want, I will take you where I want. Of course, it's better to do both. Now, finally, I'm going to just say another saying that it's very interesting. That they say, النفس كالطفل إن تهمله شب على حب الرضاعة وإن تفطمه ينفطم. The nafs, our self, our whims, our desires are like an infant. The infants like to suckle the mother's breast. They want the mother's milk. If you don't teach it at some stage that you're going to have to go to normal food, the baby will continue to want the suckle. He will not want to eat. So this is the same as in nafs. If you just follow its whims and its desire, it's going to lead you astray. But if you teach it that no, this is not the way, it will go in the right path. And if you persist, after a while, it becomes natural. Finally, from Surah An-Nisa, فَلَا وَرَبِّكَ لَا يُؤْمِنُونَ حَتَّى يُحَكِّمُوكَ فِي مَا شَجَرَ بَيْنَهُمْ. Surah An-Nisa, Allah says, Prophet Muhammad, لا يؤمنون حتى يحكموك فيما شجر بينهم. They will not be real believers until they take Allah's rules and regulations and take Allah's and Prophet Muhammad's rulings. ثم لا يجد في أنفسهم حرجا مما قضيت ويسلموا تسليما. And this is the part that we always ignore. ثم لا يجد في أنفسهم حرجا. And then they don't find that I'm doing it, but I'm not comfortable with it. I'm struggling to do it. And they give in to the desires of Allah and to the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So this is what we want to achieve. To start with, whatever you want to do to control your nafs will not be easy. It will be hard. It will beat you once. You will beat it once. If you tame it, it will learn to follow your orders. And once it learns to follow your orders, if you persist, it becomes a habit. And once it becomes a habit, it comes easy, so you're not struggling even to do the ta'at. أقول قولي هذا وأستغفر الله لي ولكم. اللهم اهدنا فيمن هديت وعافنا فيمن عافيت وتولنا فيمن توليت وبارك اللهم لنا فيما أعطيت وقنا واصرف عنا برحمتك شر ما قضيت فإنك سبحانك تقضي ولا يقضى عليك. اللهم أرنا الحق حقا وارزقنا اتباعه وأرنا الباطل باطلا وارزقنا اجتنابه. اللهم اكفنا بحلالك عن حرامك وأغننا بفضلك عمن سواك. اللهم ارحمنا بترك المعاصي أبدا ما أحييتنا وارحمنا بترك ما لا يعنينا وارزقنا حسن النظر فيما يرضيك عنا وألزم قلوبنا حفظ كتابك كما علمتنا واشرح به صدورنا ونور به قلوبنا وأطلق به ألسنتنا. اللهم انصر الإسلام والمسلمين. اللهم انصر الإسلام والمسلمين. اللهم انصر الإسلام والمسلمين. ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار وأدخلنا الجنة مع الأبرار وآخر دعوانا الحمد لله. عباد الله إن الله يأمر بالعدل والإحسان وإيتاء ذي القربى وينهى عن الفحشاء والمنكر والبغي يعظكم لعلكم تذكرون فاذكروا الله يذكركم واستغفروه يغفر لكم وأقيموا الصلاة.